Did
Hooray.
you got a
Mm.
notification that it's recording? Yay! Look at
We're
us
on. We're
making it
on.
happen.
Welcome, everybody, for the third episode of the Susie and Sparkle Show. We had some technical problems, but luckily Melissa came to our aid. So we're actually going to have the show. And I'm so excited that not only does Melissa know about Tarot, she also knows about Zoom calls. So we are in good shape. So, why don't we start with Susie introducing herself, and then I'll introduce myself, and then we'll have you introduce yourself, Melissa, and then we'll just ask questions.
Hi, Susie Epstein, retired social worker, dog hugger, tree hugger, and native Austinite.
Hey, well, Sparkle, Governor Sparkle, running for governor, still a licensed lawyer, but have not been actively practicing in the last couple of years. The only work I've done is occasional advice for clients of Texas accountants and lawyers for the arts. And Melissa?
Hello, I'm Melissa Olson Meeks. I am a writer, a tarot reader. I'm also a parent. That is a big part of my life. And what else? Yeah, I'll just start there for now, I guess.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, Susie normally asks the first question, so let Susie start
Let's
us.
be normal. Let's be normal, right?
Yeah.
Just momentarily. Melissa, so I guess I'll start with the first question for how did you find tarot? How would you describe your tarot journey?
Oh, thanks for asking this. I think that I found tarot um, through creative practice. So basically, I had been writing a novel I'd been working on it for a couple years. I had some scenes where the protagonist in my novel was playing around with divination sticks, something like similar to the I Ching. And I had heard about a workshop that my writing coach, Claire Campbell of Bluestone Writers, was giving on tarot for writing. And I thought, well,
Hmm.
that's kind of related to what's going on in my book, so I'm going to give it a try. And this was like somewhere around 2020. And I just immediately really loved working with the cards.
Hmm.
And then when the pandemic hit and I just felt like like so many of us, this kind of like existential what the fuck is going on type of feeling. I just found myself really comforted by the cards.
Hmm.
I struggled so much, just to kind of keep the wheels on the cart day to day. I had two small kids at home. I was homeschooling them. I was also still trying to write at the same time. And when I would go to my deck, I would just find these supportive messages about,
Hmm.
learning through adversity and developing a real robust growth mindset that also allowed for rest
Hmm.
really deliberately, which was something I really needed was permission to rest. And so yeah, my passion for tarot just grew out of that point as I started kind of doing more research, kind of historical research, symbolism research. I found that it also allowed me to kind of tap into my academic background because I do have a PhD in comparative literature, which I study how to focus in visual culture. So I had done a lot of like visual analysis, cultural analysis of images for my academic work, and I was able to kind of bring that in to my work with the tarot in a way that was new for me and exciting and um, spiritually enlivening in a way that yeah, I still really enjoy. Like I'm still learning
What
and
a
trying.
story. I love it that you got into it because your protagonist was into divination. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Divination?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got a suggestion from your writing coach about writing for tarot. And I love that doorway. That's really, and of course how it fits in with the rest of your life. That's wonderful. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, thanks. It felt really
Melissa, can you tell us about, have you finished the novel? Are you still working on it? What's going on with writing?
I am still working on it. This book, it's interesting, like starting with the question about the tarot, because the book has transformed my life in a number of ways, like like that, um, and and it's taken a lot of different forms. I think when I started it, it was really a completely different story than the iteration that it's at now. It's become a lot more magical, as it's evolved and as I've evolved and maybe like become more magical or like interested in magic. So yeah, I'm working through what I feel like is a pretty close to final revision. My milestone I'm reaching for is to finish that by the end of this academic year. So I'll say I'm voicing that out into the universe and hoping that I can make this happen. Um, because yeah, I feel such gratitude for this story and the way that it's really enriched my life. I would love to see it come to completion and have the opportunity to have a life outside of my desktop at some point. Yeah.
That's amazing. Um, so do I get to ask the next
Yeah.
question?
Yes, you do.
Good. So, um, I guess one of the like a curiosity and is like how does it, and if so, how does tarot affect kind of how you move through the world, maybe including how you relate to others?
Hmm.
Has it changed how you look at, yeah, how you look at yourself in the world, including communities, people you know, people you don't know? Does that make sense?
Hmm. Hmm. Um, I love this question. I think
Think
I could talk about it for a long time
that's
because
a perfect guesting.
um, how does it change the way I move through the world? Okay, I oftentimes it's a little bit like a language.
Mm,
It helps me to give a language. It's both like it's a symbolic language, like a symbolic language to things I feel that are that I'm moving through, like energies, I guess, that I'm moving through, or situations that I find myself in,
mm,
um, so that I can kind of, for example, I guess if I felt like I was struggling with like deciding between many different things, many different like possibilities, trying to make a choice that had kind of an overwhelming amount of choices to it. I could think to myself, this is a seven of cups moment. It's a seven
mm,
of cups moment because I can see like in my mind this vision of the card where there's all these cups and they're just like overwhelming this figure. They don't know which choice to go with. And what I often take from the Seven of Cups is, okay, you're overwhelmed, but spirit is underneath all of these cups. Whichever one you choose to pursue, spirit is going to be there to help guide the next step in the progression. So the way that I read is often I'll get this sort of symbolic like link to what's happening in my life, and then I usually have like there's like a counterbalance. Okay, I'm feeling like this way. Maybe I'm feeling really happy about something, and I feel like, gosh, this is a Six of Wands moment for me. And also then I can take from that like all right, like it's a Six of Wands moment that can be really like expansive. I feel like I'm like on stage, like I'm getting accolades. That's usually what Six of Wands kind of symbolizes. But I also have to like keep moving forward. I have to kind of keep my eyes on the prize, like don't get distracted by the people in the crowd, cheering. I hope this makes sense what I'm saying. So,
It feels like it's like a blueprint in a way.
yeah.
I mean, not that it's static, but it's a you're def I'm really hearing what I hear you saying is you I don't know how to put it into words, but it's within you all the way as you're perceiving things, feeling things, and then it seems like you then check in and you ground. It helps you ground
Yeah.
and to understand the moment.
Yes, yeah. I like how you put that. It's definitely the grounding piece. Someone that gets like really overwhelmed easily, especially like with thoughts. It's nice to have this like visual reminder, like visual blueprint as you call it, because it sort of transcends the kind of storytelling language part of my brain. And that feels really grounding. And also because of the way the tarot is structured to really emulate self-actualization, like this maturation process that we go through from birth to death in these sort of spiralic waves where we learn different lessons and each step in the path is valuable for whatever it brings. Um, just that kind of acknowledgement that I can sort of situate my perception of in any given moment along this tarot inflected timeline of what it is to evolve, what it is to grow as a human in a body on this planet, to me feels grounding and supportive and gives me a sense of empowerment to continue, like meeting the moment, meeting it as we go
It
along.
sounds very reassuring to me. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's really a cool tool that you have in your toolkit.
Thanks. And so the other part of your question about how it helps me relate to others. I mean, there's the fun part of like, oh, this person seems very Queen of Wands to me. And then it's like, it's sort of like kind of a way to categorize people, which, that has its upsides and
We
downsides.
all do.
But it
Right.
can also be kind of fun because you just sort of it helps you sort of relate to that person as, again, like part of this continuum. Like we're all a part of this continuum. We all have all the different queens, all the different kings alive inside of us, and some people just present more one way or the other. But it's all of us together. So I feel like in that way, it helps me connect with people, but also respect the differentiations to different personality types. I can really respect somebody who's very Queen of Swords and knows how to draw boundaries in a way that, is maybe harsh on the outside, but I think, hey, I really respect that because that's important work. I have something I can learn from the way that this person enacts and embodies that energy. Um, so yeah, it's very, I think, complex, and those are only the ways that I can name. I'm sure there are other ways that it also shapes
I
my
love that though,
action.
because it's like you get what it sounds to me is like, for me, I'll get an impression of, because I think when I say we all do that, I think we all guess about who people are before we know them. I think it's just
Mm,
human nature, right? To make guesses. And it's like, and at least I know not to, that it's not based in reality, that I need to let go of it when I meet someone, right? But I like what I'm hearing from you, it's like, you see something and it's familiar. You're like, oh, I can place it with this card or that card. And because you're so learned in the cards, you know how deep the cards go. The cards reflect this and that and that. It's a much more complex way of perceiving reality. I like it.
Yeah.
Melissa, if someone knows nothing about tarot and is interested to learn about it, how would you recommend someone get to find out? And I mean, is there a tarot for dummies? That probably is not the best way, but how would you
Sounds
recommend
good.
someone?
There is so much information out there. I mean, I think the best thing that a person can do if they're interested in tarot is like have a lot of fun finding a deck whose artwork really speaks to you, because I think that is really the strongest connection that you can make
Mm.
with the symbols, is really resonating with the artwork. And there are just so many beautiful decks. Like just the process of letting one find you, letting yourself select it, is, I think, really magical. So like leaning into that, I think is a really generative first step. And then, I mean, I I think it just depends on how you like to work with your learning style. I learned a lot about the tarot listening to podcasts. I love Lindsay Mack's No Bad Cards, or Rewilding the Tarot. I think that's what she calls it. She has several different like platforms on which she shares her tarot reads for the month. And she has such a back catalog that I was able to just like, I would pull myself a card in the morning and then I would just search her back catalog for okay, where did she talk about the hermit? And I would go back and listen to whatever she said about the hermit, because that was something I could do when I was like doing chores and folding laundry, and it fit kind of into my life. Um, but there are all kinds of ways. I even saw an ad recently that there's like Duolingo for learning tarot, or you can like quiz yourself, like, whatever. I think whatever seems fun, whatever seems fun is the best way. Um, yeah, of course, there are like a myriad amount of books that one can work with. Journaling with the tarot is always a great practice, because that if you're doing intuitive writing while you're working with the symbols, you're just activating that magical intuitive part of your body. I don't even want to say your mind, because it's more than your mind at the same time. Um, But yeah, there's so many ways in. But find the deck that you love. That's great.
I love that. I've been in a couple of Melissa's classes in a small group. And Glenna, your question reminded me of an experience I had that because I really don't know anything about tarot, but I had a deck and I really wasn't into it. And then I found one that I really liked. And I think Melissa, you led a class and I really loved it. And if I remember right, what I loved about this process is that you asked us, we drew a card and you asked us how we felt about it. So I didn't know anything, I didn't turn the card over to say, oh, it's this and that, it means this and it means that. But it's like, what are you gathering? What does this make you feel? And for me, that gives a permission and a creativity and ask us to tap into whatever it is that we want to about how we first interpret it. And I just think that is really a beautiful unfolding. It doesn't have to be rigid, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it makes me think of something else too. I think people feel like they're I think people sometimes feel like they're cheating if they like go to the book right away. I mean, your book that comes with your tarot deck is helpful. And then I also think people think they're cheating if they like go to the book, but then they want something else. So what I mean is like sometimes, sometimes when I was reading, I would like read the thing in my book and I'd be like, I don't know, like that doesn't really resonate with what I brought to my deck. And so I would maybe go Google it, or I would like look deeper. And sometimes I would find a way, I would find a way back. So it wasn't that like, it's different than like cherry picking. I feel like that's like the criticism. You go, well, you cherry pick till you find the interpretation that you want. It was more like I was looking for that resonance. So when you said, yeah, so we take a minute to like look at the card, what am I feeling from that? I'm looking for the thing that helps me like dig into that piece that's like helping me
Yeah.
understand what's resonant about it. And then a lot of times that thinking would lead me back to where I started with the guidebook, and I would read it again and go, oh, oh, yeah, that does actually make sense. But I couldn't quite understand it until I had sort of gone on this circular journey with my own intuitive searching.
I love that. I
Yeah,
love that. It's like you're trying to find a language that you can understand,
yeah.
in a way.
Yeah, so if like something doesn't make sense, that's not, I think sometimes we can feel shut down by that. Like, oh, is there something here I'm not getting? But sometimes it just means like doing a little bit more looking, or also just like sitting with it for a while. Maybe you just write down in your journal, okay, I pulled this based on a
Mhm.
question I had and it didn't really make sense. But then if you look again, like a few days later,
Mhm.
it's amazing how many times it's like, oh, oh yeah, that was meaning that. Yeah.
Melissa, can you describe a tarot deck? I mean, I think most everybody is familiar with a deck of cards, but the tarot has some similarities, but some strikingly differences. Can you just describe a tarot deck for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. It has a traditional tarot deck, has similarity with your regular like deck of playing cards in that there are four suits. It's the wands, the pentacles, the swords, and the cups. And those have correspondences with the four elements. So they each of those suits like counts up just the same way that a deck of cards does. So you start with an ace, two, three, four, and then you have a court card within the set. And each of those progressions um, is kind of like a little life lesson for how you deal with the energies of the element in your life. So you go from this kind of beginning stage in the ace to like your mastery in the court cards. And then in addition to those suits, you have what's called the major arcana, which is a set of cards that is based on these kind of rich archetypal energies. You start with the Fool, and then you go through. I can't name them all off the top of my head, but you end up. So you start as like this journeyer, like this young journeyer about to like leap off into the unknown, and then you end up as the world, like just encompassing everything, and then you start back at the beginning again. So yeah, it's 78 cards total. And I think a lot of people consider the major arcana to be things that happen on a more macro level. So they can even be like things that are energies that are moving through the collective that then resonate with something that's happening in your life. So they're really energies that ask us to kind of surrender to the moment. And then the minor arcana, so those are those four suits, those are kind of more of like the earthy things that actions that you're making on the ground. So there's a lot more emphasis on interactions with other people, like kind of earthly situations in those cards. So each kind of has their part to play. So many of the tarot archetypes are about kind of this balance between what is cerebral, what is in the spirit realm, and what is on earth, and how we kind of bridge that space. As humans, we live in that space constantly where we're pulling things from our imaginal realm and trying to make them work in our reality, manifest what it is that we imagine, and also imbue our mundane lives with things that are rich and spiritual. That's why so many cultures have practice of like saying a blessing over the food. You know, what's more mundane than like you have to eat to survive, but we bring the spiritual into it by having these practices.
Melissa, this is fascinating, but we're running close to our, so I'm going to
Oh
let
yeah.
Susie ask the last question
Yeah,
so
this has
we
been
can, she's always a
wonderful.
good, yeah.
So, last question is, what do you do for fun?
Oh, what do I do for fun? I have a lot of fun. Um, uh, the first thing that comes to mind is I sing in a band. I sing in two bands actually, and that's another hobby of mine that like came out of my story because it's about a little band in Austin, and I thought, well, if I'm going to write about a band, I'm going to see what it's like to
Mm.
be in one. And we play a lot of covers, and one of the groups is a blues cover band, and the other is kind of like classic rock songs from the 90s and 80s. And it's just to me like it's feel good music. It's just so fun. It's so fun. Yeah.
Melissa, thank you so much. This has been so wonderful. And like I say, I wish we had more time, but we do try to keep these to a half hour. So thank you so much. And it's just been fascinating. And we will see you we'll look for your novel. That is on my list of things to look for. So when it comes out, I want to be one of the first to buy it.
Oh, thanks, Sparkle. Well, thank you, and congratulations on your candidacy. I'm so excited for you to be running for governor and just really inspired by your journey and everything that you bring to our community. So I really appreciate all the time that I get to interact and be with you. So
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Sparkle.
Thank you,
Gov,
Susan.
Gov, until next time.
Yeah.
okay.
Bye. Thank you.